his workshop.
In Mark chapter 12, Jesus taught that the most important commandment, the greatest instruction for living in his image, is to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength.
But Rebecca, he didn't stop there. He added, the second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than this. Why would Jesus say this commandment is equally important to loving God supremely?
That is exactly what we'll look at today. Why is a commandment so important, and how do we follow it?
Our love for God must be authentic and wholehearted. We cannot fake it. We cannot hide it behind rituals, traditions, or legal checklists. And Jesus drives home another point with the second commandment. We cannot love God as just an emotional or intellectual experience.
Jesus taught that we show our love for God by loving others. Jesus' disciple, John, explained it this way. If someone says, I love God, but hates a fellow believer, that person is a liar. For if we don't love people we can see, how can we love God whom we cannot see? The way we treat others is the litmus test of our love for God. This is kingdom love. It is both meaningful and very practical.
It starts with remembering that everyone is created in God's image, Rebecca. This means that everyone is God's son or daughter. How would you treat the child of the prime minister? Or your boss's child? Or even the child of your closest friend?
That is a great way to put it. If nothing else, we would treat them with respect. Maybe sometimes hugs and kisses are appropriate, but at the very least, we would treat them with respect.
Every person is a child of God. This truth compels us to treat everyone with respect, no matter our differences, even no matter if they are living in God's image or not. As his children, they deserve our respect.
But how do we love others as the commandment tells us to do?
How do we respect others, Rebecca?
Right, let's get practical.
Well, for starters, we are to love inclusively. We are to show respect to everyone. Jesus told the story of a good Samaritan to illustrate who and how to love. Jesus showed the Samaritan's love was inclusive. Cultural, political, spiritual, and economic difference did not hold the Samaritan back from respecting the stranger's humanity and give him life-saving love.
I think we need to acknowledge something here, Douglas. Kingdom love can be uncomfortable, can it? I mean, it's wonderful to receive it, but to respect others like the Samaritan did, that pushes us out of our comfort zone.
It can for sure, Rebecca. But we are to respect others like that anyway, even if it is uncomfortable or inconvenient or costs us in some way. And I'm confident that practice makes perfect. The more we ask God to help us love like that, the more we'll be able to do so.
That's very true. Another practical way we respect others is by fighting injustice and showing compassion to the vulnerable. This sounds very grand, and it can be. But it can also be something humbler. We can stand up for our classmates or colleagues. We can reach out to people on the sidelines who feel left out or unseen. There are so many ways every day that we can fight injustices large and small and show meaningful compassion to those around us.
And you know, a form of compassion is offering the gift of forgiveness. The offer of forgiveness and the attempt at reconciliation are ways to respect others. This one can be hard, especially if we have been painfully wronged. But nevertheless, we are called to love in this way. However, I must clarify one thing. I'm not saying that offering forgiveness means putting yourself back in harm's way. I want to be clear about that. You do not prove your offer of forgiveness by repeatedly placing yourself in danger.
Thank you so much for saying that, Douglas. In those kinds of situations, you offer forgiveness, but that offer will show itself in how you pray for that person, what you hope for them, and in asking God to heal any grudges in your heart. So far, we've said that practical kingdom love gives respect to all, fights for justice, large and small, and shows meaningful compassion.
There is one more practical way to love others that comes to mind. It is building our communities. And I do not literally mean building structures, although it could be, Rebecca. But I mean building inclusive, welcome, safe environments that strengthen others and point them to God.
That is a very good one. Building inclusive, welcoming environments applies to our homes, our neighborhoods, our workplaces, our churches, pretty much everywhere.
Loving others as ourselves can be challenging. It calls for personal growth and effort.
We must unlearn seeing people a certain way. Instead, we must learn to see them as God does, as His children.
These will challenge our biases and prejudices towards people. We must also overcome selfishness. True kingdom love often involves personal sacrifice, whether of time, convenience, resources, you name it. Kingdom love walks in Jesus' footsteps of self giving love.
Let's remind ourselves of something. We can do nothing without Jesus and His power. We must depend on Him to soften our hearts and reshape our perceptions, to forgive us when we fail, and to teach us as we move forward. Growing our ability to truly respect others as God's children is a lifelong process of spiritual growth and transformation.
As we love others, we participate more fully in the reality of God's kingdom, where the principle of love, of respect, governs, where every person is valued and respected as a unique reflection of our Creator King.
Next time, we'll talk about the as you love yourself part of this verse. For now, let's remember our key questions. What is God doing in my life? Do I have the courage to be a part of His work? Am I truly willing to join Him in His work of redemption in my life and all around me?